To go. I guess today we're going to wing this thing.
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Yeah. Open up that carbonated beverage. The one Michael Jackson used to advertise. I say that all the time. Every day it's the same old thing. Isn't it? Same old thing. Another day and another dollar in debt. The teeth. The tooth. I forgot to clean the litter box, which will probably come back to haunt me during this broadcast. We're also going to test a couple of different technologies. Pardon me.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
She's got a good voice. I was recorded about well over 20 some years ago, though. Excuse me. What a way to start. I've got no listeners, though, so that's cool. So, since nobody's watching or listening, let's do the
Weekend weather.
And why would I do the weekend weather on a Monday morning? I wouldn't. So this isn't that. It's 66 degrees here in the former United States on May 24th, calendar year 2021. For those who have found this archived somehow, some way, shape, or form in some damaged archive buried somewhere in a salt mine or something like that. This is how everyone dressed in the year 2021. We had a cult where we worshipped cows and wore shirts. Okay, as such. But it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit outside of my studio. And it's going to reach a high of only about 68 degrees today, and the overnight will be 59. And tomorrow we're looking like maybe a chance of thunderstorms again. I hope, because I've been watering the garden for the past week or so, and it's just not as good as rain. You know, rain is like the natural gardening watering tool. Forget about hooking up all kinds of irrigation systems or whatever. I mean, irrigate if you must. But, and we'll get into that with the old Funkin' Wagnalls, which is going to be part of our story today. So, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen, and that's what's happening. So, let's do it. So, it's another day. And like I say, I don't make any money on these things. Come June 1st, I'm looking over there because I have a calendar there. So it's basically June 1st is like about a week away. Is that correct? It's still dark in that corner. No, it's 8 days away. 8 days a week. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles. You know. And if you don't understand, if you're new to this whole thing, you don't understand the bandana. It's because we're cattle. They look at us as cattle. That's all we are. Say it every day. It's getting old, I know. So what?
Good morning.
We're here for you, and
Here's what's happening.
So one of the reasons I'm starting at 6:18 today. Excuse me. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. For those who are keeping track of my weight loss thing, I'm kind of in a holding pattern. I did lose about 5 pounds. My goal is 25. So I got 20 to go. And I only have about 10 days. So that's 2 pounds a day. And I fell last week and hurt my right leg, and I have a bruise on it the size of a frickin' dinner plate. I'm telling you. Why does that matter? Because I don't know why it's bruised so big. I can walk upstairs, but there is pain. It's like, not an overwhelming amount of pain. I did walk to the grocery store several days ago. And, it just wasn't feeling exactly right. I don't know if I broke a bone. I don't think I broke a bone. I think if I broke my leg, I'd be wouldn't be able to walk. I'd certainly not go upstairs. But I may have hairline fractured something. I mean, a bruise that big, it's huge. So I don't know. I don't know if I should really go for a walk. Right? Cat just looked down. I wonder if he's going to be a problem again today. You can see the bruise on my arm there. See that? On that side? See that? You can't make it. I mean, the light is so bright that it kind of blasts everything out. Like, for example, I have a suntan. I have a pretty dark suntan right now. But I got a white light coming from the sound effects machine and this ridiculous light over here, which I even bought because it was like more of an amber light. I thought it would be, lighter, but I can't. I live below the poverty line, so it's not likely I can't afford to put in some professional studio lighting here, or even like a reflector. I mean, I guess I could build a reflector, but this space is so tight. That's why you see me like reach. Oops. See, yeah, right. It just banged into something. That's why you see me reaching back instead of rotating around the chair. Because if I can't rotate around the chair. It's how tight this space is. Yesterday I had too much soda. Today I have too little. I could tell already. I'm drinking it like it's going out of style. I don't want to turn my camera on too early because I was blaming that. I still don't know like what. There's like 2 videos. If you go back like 2 videos ago, and there are go back 2 videos ago and watch 2 videos. It's like I'm, coming to you on a dial-up or something. It's totally ridiculous. And excuse me, that's a belch. Tony Caravan Live. It's a weird thing. I know, and despite all that, it's still
The only station that matters.
so. I guess what I was trying to say, my mind just went totally, completely, utterly blank. I don't know what I was even trying to say. Did it even matter? Okay, so let's go through the usual morning stuff. If you looked at the title card, it says punch the clock. And it's a rather blurry picture because it's taken from an old National Archives movie that I got off from the Library of Congress. And it's a bunch of women probably during, WW2 punching the clocks, going to work. And that it could even be WW1 because they're like fully, completely fully dressed. Like, I mean, no skin whatsoever showing. So the further back you go, when women were, Whoa, what an attractive ankle she has. Hey, that woman, your girlfriend has quite an attractive ankle. It's like how people adapt to certain things, right? Look at the nape of her neck. Because if it's all you can see, people have these like electric eyes. That's scary. I used to be an actor, a director, and a producer. It's not hard to do that. And by the way, if you would have a guffaw once a day, you'll live longer, by the way. Trust me on that.
I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
Okay.
She knows. Everybody knows. That was a good one, though, you got to admit. And it had nothing to do with this. Because I don't have any of that. Don't have any at all. Don't have it. Plus, I wouldn't do that. I was never really that kind of person that did the bong thing. I mean, I've done it when I was younger, but passing around. And imagine in today's world, I mean, I guess the whole idea is nobody's passing a joint around, right? Is that maybe a coincidence that they came out with like gummies and, these, your own personal, those electronic things, electronic cigarettes, e-cigs or whatever. And all these flavored things now and it just so happens that comes out like prior to the unspeakable thing. Because I'm still telling you, it's still like the, it's right out of the communist handbook, get everybody stoned so they don't know what's going on. Which brings us to looking at and I don't really care about that, recreational marijuana, where it's legal. Why not? Anyway, the title, this is like This Way to the Beach. Title of today's show, We're Squandering Our Time. We'll talk about that. And the description is, for those who are watching this on a television, smart TV, I don't know if you can hear it. There's a road rally outside my place right now. The obsession with smartphones and apps, which are nothing more than passing fancies and fads, has drawn the public's attention away from truly living happy, fulfilled lives. Likewise, I could probably put a comma after likewise. Likewise, the preoccupation with politics as pop culture, social issues, and I'll put a comma even though it doesn't need one after that, and the cult of personalities, because it's really plural, has literally toppled Western civilization and destroyed the U.S. Let me read that again since we made some changes along the way. Excuse me, pardon me. The obsession with smartphones and apps, which are nothing more than passing fancies and fads, has drawn the public's attention away from truly living happy, fulfilled lives. Likewise, the preoccupation with politics as pop culture, social issues, and the cult of personalities has literally toppled Western civilization and destroyed the U.S. I'll stand by that. But the idea of someone saying, well, what do you mean the smartphone's a passing fancy or a fad? Because they've only been around for 10 years. That's why. That's usually how fads go. Nothing like, the human, it's basic human stuff. They're trying their damnedest to like prolong everything. Right. And I did a show on that about, and I'm not going to repeat it again, but how music used to change 3 or 4 times within each decade, and fads and fashion and pop culture used to change, within the decade, sometimes several times. Yeah. And you could go back and look throughout history, and you could see, even like I talked about, oh, look at that woman, she's got attractive ankle, because that's all you could see. So, people were obsessed with it. So their electric eye was on it. The nape of the neck, right? And so, long skirts, short skirts, bobby socks, mini skirts, right? Hats, fedoras. Guys used to wear hats, zoot suits, suspenders, all kinds of things, flashy colors, flower power, right? Peace and love. All kinds of crazy fads, and I don't mean things like even the pet rock or that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about pop culture usually was like a thing, folk music, hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, hairdos, cars. Look how cars have changed, or used to change. Now you can't tell the difference. I mean, unless you're into really, super high end vehicles. I did a show on cars where I criticized that whole thing. That's a real mind fuck. Cars. Pardon my fornication under the consent of the king word. Cars just a means of transportation. They got you brainwashed, making you think it looks good. It doesn't really. It's just a thing, right? It's just a thing. But they worked on you since you were, for generations. So it's almost, it's almost ingrained in your DNA that you think a car is cool looking. But in reality, it's a freaking car. Needless to say, think about how over the years, but like recently now you have like the SUV that's kind of looked like the long elongated SUV, which you can't tell what it is. A friend of mine rents cars and visits. And it's like, I'm always like, I get in it and I can't see the logo or something inside right away. I go, so what is this? Right. So say, oh, it's a Mazda. Oh, it's a such and such. It's a, because whatever you get, rent a cars always give you some kind of thing. And, or you got the boxy type SUV. And then you have the car, like the small to mid-sized car, which all are like kind of just a car. That's how the used car salesman which TV is, that's one of the four things that television exists for. They sell used cars, pharmaceuticals, right? Then ads by lawyers telling you that the pharmaceuticals that the FDA approved and that they advertised are no good for you and it killed you. And here's collect your money. It's your money. And then political ads. So you got these used cars now that are 10 years old selling for $12,000 and they have over 100,000 miles on them. This car obsession is another weird thing. Nobody talks about that because they're one of the biggest advertisers on television. I guarantee right now, because it's sick. If you're anywhere, it's 6:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're anywhere, where you have local TV in the U.S. of A., former U.S., you turn on this is like the time when they have their local morning shows, news things on. I'll guarantee that you will see a used car and car commercials on. Biggest advertiser. Radio is the same way. When I used to sell radio and I used to general manage radio. I DJ'd on radio, did them all. And cars were our best advertisers. Yeah, it's cars. But they never go against, Don't bite the hand that feeds you, basically. That's what it amounts to. That nightmare with the cat in the other room has occurred. But there's not much I can do about it. So, otherwise,
Why are you telling us this?
just because I'm trying to get started, get rolling. That's all. And there's it's Monday morning road rally. It makes no sense. And like, why wouldn't it be a Tuesday morning? Are there people that only go to work, use this road on a Monday? There's so many weird things, right, in life. So I'm going to try doing this and hope that this doesn't turn this into some modelly ruin our, I have to do this in a very weird way. Come on. Let's see. Up. There we go. This is an experiment. There we go. Screen mirroring. Didn't do it. Screen mirroring. Oh, come on, man. There we go. Now, let's take this. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Now, unfortunately, because of the way this is, I don't think, let's see if I can lower this. I can't get like the full screen view. So we're going to have to come in a little bit closer. I don't know why I can't get a full screen view. Doesn't make any sense. So what I've done here, or attempting to do, why can't I get the full screen? Let's see here. Get this to flip sideways. I wonder if I take it out. I'll probably destroy my phone. Okay, we look at it sideways. It's still sideways. Stay sideways. Good phone. Good phone. Ugh. Good phone. I'll probably break my phone. There we go. All right, and hopefully I'm not pushing any weird buttons. All right. So on the TV behind me, this thing is a control. All right. I guess I could come over here a little bit closer. There's a book by Jacques Vallée. Now, I've got light on these things, so there's really no reason why. They shouldn't be very, very visible. Well, anyway, there's this book by Jacques Vallée in the background here. And it's called Passport to Magonia, From Folklore to Flying Saucers. And I thought this is something I read, I don't know, quite a while ago. I read it right when it came out. So let's look at the copyright. Looks like it was like 2014 is when he revised this. See that? I don't know if you can see this. This isn't working out exactly as I like. But anyway, in the back of this book, and again, I don't know why the lighting is so weird because I have a light directly on it. But as you can see here, he's gone through every, and I hope you could hear my voice too. In the last part of the book, he does a century of UFO landings. Okay. 1868 to 1968. And so what he's done is, I mean, this is an incredible work. I mean, that's the book cover. Looks a little clearer this way, I guess. All right. And the whole idea, if you look closely, it's from folklore to flying saucers. And what he's trying to do is this is just a century of UFO landings compendium in the back of the book. But in early part of the book, he goes way back to everything from fairies to whatever. But let me just randomly, like I said, I didn't rehearse this. I didn't plan this, but just to show you what I'm doing here, this is kind of an interesting idea, right? Trying to develop this, utilize this way. So, and maybe I could turn this more towards me. Testing 1, 2, 3. But let's say, okay, so I think he's got some pictures here too. It's been a long time. This is when I used to just basically read books. A 15th century representation of demons inflicting tortures. That's kind of scary. So what he goes back to is he tries to deal with, and of course the classic one you've seen from Eric von Daniken and that the guy who's riding the rocket. Crop circles. But anyway, so let's just go to the first one, July 1868. This whole show isn't going to be about this. I just want to tell you, this morning I was looking at, I have a library upstairs. It's not a big library. It's not, it's not quantitative, it's qualitative. Okay. So, Copiago, Chile. A strange aerial construction bearing lights and making engine noises flew low over this town. Local people also described it as a giant bird covered with large scales producing a metallic noise. Although not an actual landing, this is the first instance of a close observation of an unknown object at low altitude in the 19th century. That was in 1868. So that was the first kind of reported UFO sighting. December 7th, 1872. Banbury, Great Britain. At King's Sutton, an object resembling a haystack flew on an irregular course, sometimes high, sometimes very low. It was accompanied by fire and dense smoke. It produced the same effect as a tornado, felling trees and walls. It suddenly vanished. Anyway, so let's just jump ahead to September 15th, 1954, for example, in France. So you could see what I'm doing. It's kind of neat, don't you think? Hopefully it's not blurry. A white light suddenly swept the road in front of Roland M., 19, who observed that it came from a large, dark object 10 meters above ground. It flew away with the noise of a wet firework throwing magnesium-like sparks. It's in 1954. Casablanca, right? Good old Casablanca.
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
A small gray disc flew over a car at very high speed, followed by cold air currents. This was reported by Mr. Ghiata. Just look ahead. Because, the further you get away, 1956, May 9th. Two girls, Joan Frost and Gertie Wynn, this is Jacksonville, Florida, while waiting for a bus, saw two pulsating lights flying horizontally and disappearing. 15 minutes later, the lights were seen again, stopping at the zenith, merging, diving to a 50-meter altitude. As the bus arrived, it seemed that the objects had separated and were about to abduct the witnesses, and they ran to the vehicle in terror. Interesting. So this guy created a compendium of every sighting, abduction, whatever, that ever happened. And the French, this is Jacques Vallée, the French have been more into this, just like the Russians have been more open about UFOs, than the U.S., who's now the U.S. is starting to talk about them. Okay, it is impossible to quote the entire text of this treatise, but this is from some kind of Air Force. Oh, let's see. He compares them to nymphs of antiquity. A Scottish scholar gathered all the accounts he could find about the sleigh mice, and in 1691 wrote a manuscript bearing the title The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns, and Fairies. Anyway, 1. They have a nature that is intermediate between man and the angels. Physically, they have a very light and fluid bodies, which are comparable to a condensed cloud. They are particularly visible at dusk. They can appear and vanish at will. Intellectually, they are intelligent and curious. They have power to carry away anything they like. They live inside the earth in caves, which they can reach through any crevice or opening where air passes. When men did not inhabit most of the world, they used to live there and had their own agriculture. Their civilization has left traces on the high mountains. It was flourishing at a time when the whole countryside was nothing but woods and forests. At the beginning of each 3-month period, they change quarters because they are unable to stay in one place. Besides, they like to travel. It is then that men have terrible encounters with them, even on the great highways. Their chameleon-like bodies allow them to swim through the air with all their household. This is just crazy stuff. But anyway, I have a lot of books like that. And I used to read, because the idea is that what I like about that type of book is that here's somebody, it's a compendium. So the guy's not throwing his opinion in. There's no it's not even like Mulder, I want to believe, right? This is like, hey, here are all, I'm just going to put down all the reports, put together this stuff. It's a massive research project this guy put together. He has 2 books out. There's another one out that was released around that time. Because I think this was an update. Like this book was originally written earlier in like the 1969, the front part of it. But the compendium was added like in 2014. And right around that time, he had written another book. And I have that. But this is something completely different. This is, if you can see this, This is the Funk and Wagnalls Encyclopedia. Now, when I grew up, most people had encyclopedias in their house. Well, it didn't matter even if you weren't that well off. And Funk and Wagnalls was a little bit cheap. We had Encyclopedia Britannica in my house because my father, he actually read Encyclopedia Britannica from cover to cover. I mean, the entire encyclopedia, which was, filled. I don't have those. I think my brother has them. I wish I had them because I know he's not reading them because he just says he doesn't have time to do anything. Those books were about this big. All right. And each one was about so thick. And then they had updates that they used to, you could get because you were subscribed to it. And then they had like a science in the future book, but they would have every year they would send you another volume. And that would be anything that in there was updated to the encyclopedia. And then this science of the future, whatever. But here's a Funk and Wagnalls copyrighted, going back to like 31 and up to 63. But what's interesting about Funk and Wagnalls and encyclopedias and how Wikipedia, I used to send Wikipedia money before they became like revisionist history and controlled by the corporatocracy. See, now they basically they'll sanitize, they'll scrub, they'll like change stuff, to fit with the social engineering. But like in these encyclopedias, and not to mention it's just a blast from the past, right? Because they're older. But anyway, they weren't. People wonder, what did you do before the internet? That's why I say this passing fancy. People have no idea. If people were smart, they would go back to books, or they would go to thrift stores or old bookstores, wherever they are, and buy up like Encyclopedia Britannica, Funk and Wagnalls, old Webster's dictionaries and thesauruses. Like, for example, here's like a world atlas. And of course, this would have been back in the 60s. All right. So it has an index of every place from, there's Mozambique, Guatemala, Gabon, just places nobody knows about. World statistics, a list of some of the principal cities of the world and their populations. So let's just look at some stuff. Speaking of Casablanca, for no known reason, Casablanca, Morocco, 965,000 people. About 1 million people in the 60s there. And of course, the USSR was still there. So New York had 7,782,000 people only. Tokyo had 8 million people. Let's see. Chicago had 3,500,000 people. Let's see if there's any of these. Sometimes towns that fell out of favor. Philadelphia had 2 million people. But old industrial towns that were big at one time, sometimes were listed in these old books. But anyway. Political and social data. So it looks at, it's like, for example, Afghanistan. Constitutional monarchy. Right? Language. Persian, Pashto. Right? Austria, Republic. Burundi, monarchy. Cameroon, Republic. Canada, independent self-governing member of the Commonwealth of Nations. Monetary unit dollar, language English, French, religion Protestant, Roman Catholic. This is the kind of stuff that was in these old books. And you can see that I'm paging through these things. But anyway, so I'm not going to just go on and on and on about it. So then we get into the Atlas. And like I say, I don't know if this one actually has anatomy. Let's see, AL. What does this go up to? AM. Nah, darn it. It ends with America, the second largest isolated landmass of the Earth. I was hoping it would have went up to anatomy. Encyclopedia Britannica had this really neat thing with like these plastic, I keep going to say cellulose or something, but like in other words, layers. You have the human body, and different layers would show like different organs, blood vessels, or muscles and things like that. But anyway, here's the Atlas of the World in the 60s. And I don't know, let's see if I can close in here real quickly, but if we can get a focus there, you can see near my head. Let's see if I can back off. Or if I can get close through here. No, that lighting's useless. Anyway, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Yeah, it's crazy. Then they have got everything from like the physical layouts. See, most people today, because they don't know this, like I say, the 75 million people 17 and under, they hear all these things about Middle Eastern wars, and they probably don't even know the makeup of it. And I know it's hard to make out because the type is small and the lighting is poor, but like they don't realize how big Saudi Arabia is, for example. Australia. But one of the interesting things that I noticed, I wanted to point out, and then I'm going to stop this. I mean, this is just, you could see this is just chock full of pictures. The vast number of advertising signs that illuminate Broadway after dark in Midtown Manhattan has made the thoroughfare known widely as the Great White Way. And that's under advertising. Higher than ever in quality, lower than ever in price. Here's an ad for the Ford Model T. $590. Imagine that. It's pretty crazy. But here's, like, for example, like I've been talking about lately. Is that no one really pays attention to. This is the continent of Africa. I mean, look how big it is. And, how many countries? And people just don't have any explanation for these things. You know, it's like when they mention, they say the word African American. It's like, come on, be real. Did you see how big it's a continent, right? What country, right? I mean, they had that roots thing. African American. It's like, I mean, to me, those terminologies are more racist and abusive, than anything. It's the same with Asian American. You know how big Asia is? And all the countries that Asia comprises. I mean, you're talking about going from communist countries to republics to monarchies to dictatorships. And so these people want to lump it all together, right? I mean, who's being the bigoted, I'm knocking everything over. Reference books. Anyway, so that was it was just something I felt like sharing with you guys. And see, I can take this thing now and do whatever I want to. I guess we could look at a side view of myself if I wanted to. Go around the room, look at the other computers, my electronic equipment. I can wheel this up. Wheels up. See if we can see the cat over there. I don't know if he's still over there. Yeah, he is. But it's very dark. Well, anyway. That's enough of that. That thing got hot and it went down like 53%. So I'm going to stop mirroring. Turn that thing off. Charge it. Excuse me. Move this behind. Shut off the Apple TV. That's the old hockey puck version. And now on with the show. That's just a little blast from the past. Didn't take that long. My seat is. Yes, I'm wearing the same outfit I've worn the past two shows. The idea is that these are stage clothes. So they do get washed. And I only wear them for 2 hours a day. All right. So, what were we talking about? We're talking about this obsession with smartphones and apps as passing fancies. And how that's taken away from people living happy, fulfilled lives. Because people don't really look happy out there. Particularly the people that are caught up, these SJW types. It's ridiculous. So, can you comprehend? Let's forget yesterday's show is an interesting show because, I covered in the past couple shows a lot of real interesting things. I mean, really far out stuff, if you really think about it. I don't know why this microphone is acting really weird. But, the idea that we didn't heed the warnings of previous civilizations, that we could be on the precipice of an extinction level event, a recurring one, that modern science is ignoring science due to their own inability to work together, or, take physics, and biology, and, cross the streams, as I used as an example yesterday. It's kind of like the same thing that happens with our bureaucrats and our so-called intel agencies, where they are compartmentalized, and they also don't share information with one another the way they should. And then they create a new bureaucracy that's supposedly the one that's going to like collate the material. Excuse me. But that's just another bureaucracy, and stuff falls through the cracks, or it just creates more people who hold power and start thinking they're better than. Like I always say, the thing that annoys me the most is like when someone in law enforcement or one of these bureaucracies refers to the people that pay their salaries as a citizen, as if for some reason people in the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, DIA, or just your local police force, state police, or whatever, aren't citizens themselves, right? We have the citizen. Yeah. So you're a citizen too. And that citizen, by the way, pays your salary. Yeah. Pays your salary. Pays your fucking salary. Fuck. Yeah, that kind of stuff pisses me off. But I don't care about it. It's just another absurdity of 21st century life. Power, greed, right? It's ridiculous. Cult of personality. Fiddling while the empire fell, right? That's all it is. People fiddling while the empire fell. And like with those dictionaries, encyclopedias, just filled with information. See, this is just volume 1. This is A to AM, I think. Yeah. A to America. What, it's funny. But that's it. It's like aardvark, aardvark to America type of thing. The letter A and aardvark to America. How fitting. But what I'm saying is this is just one book, right? And this book has, I didn't even count the pages, 384 pages in this alone. And like I said, Encyclopedia Britannicas were like, triple the width, double or triple the width of this, and about twice the height in small print. And just and their descriptions were just so much more intense and in depth. And so, when you look at Wikipedia, it doesn't even come close to that. And nowadays, students, they go on the internet and that's how they do their reports. If you took something out of an encyclopedia, you would get an F. Like if you had a sentence. I think one time I quoted some things from some encyclopedia and failed to put quotation marks in it or whatever it was, and I got an F, and they accused me of, for plagiarism, which was true, and they were right. It was plagiarized because I didn't present it properly. I don't even think there's such a thing as plagiarism anymore. Right? I mean, if there were, how could you have memes in social media? See, that's another thing. Not only do they no longer have free speech, or we or anybody, because of so-called terms of service, which are in violation of the Constitution, of the First Amendment, because it says Congress shall make no law. So it means that there can't be no law. In other words, you would have to create an amendment to the Constitution to allow the terms of service of what social media is doing, this so-called Section 230 or whatever it is, that they would need to have an amendment to the Constitution. It requires something like 2/3 of the states, and it's virtually impossible in today's world with the red state, blue state, the whole, irreconcilable differences in the former U.S. It's virtually impossible to create have an amendment to the Constitution. That's why they do so. That's why they just trample on the Constitution all the time. Most executive orders are unconstitutional. Yeah. Most of and like I say, a lot of these things included in bills in Congress are not constitutional, but the Supreme Court is politicized, so they won't take it up because we live in a for-profit corporatocracy. It's not the United States of America. So social media has no right, and just how Congress, shall make no law that takes away free speech, assembly, and to redress government with grievances. Meaning that I have the right, but the courts say, oh, we're not going to hear that. So what do you do when the Supreme Court, that's supposed to, be the firewall to the Constitution, the one that interprets the Constitution, when the Supreme Court of the former United States refuses to allow you your First Amendment constitutional right? Okay, now do you understand why I call it the former United States? There is no recourse, right? And so the corporatocracy this is a corporatocracy, and the world is a group of corporatocracies basically run by an organized crime syndicate, which meets every year in Davos, World Economic Forum. I mean, it's like so obvious. I mean, it's not even, you can't even question it. They prove it day in, day out. It's insane. Just like, like I was saying about plagiarism, the meme, the things people put in tweets and posts, right? Terms of service. Private companies can't override, we're not given the right to override the law. You see? I mean, it sounds insane, and it's a very, it's a bad example, but it's nonetheless a true example. It's no different than, Facebook coming out and saying, we have the right to murder YouTubers who don't follow, who criticize us. They add that to their terms of service. Starting June 1st, We have the right to murder any YouTuber that doesn't, doesn't put this commercial or doesn't do this thing, doesn't say this thing or says this thing. I mean, in effect, that's what they're doing. They're saying our terms of service are above the law. We don't have to follow the law of the land. That's what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is. That's a law of the land, right? And then it works its way up. If it's challenged, it's supposed to work its way up through various courts to the Supreme Court, which is the backstop to say, hey, okay, this is or isn't constitutional. But none of that stuff's being done. It's like the Department of Justice and the FBI. There's a right for there's a Freedom of Information Act, right? And so, yeah, people get these FOIA documents, but they're all blacked out. The stuff you want to know is all blacked out, or they delay for like 2 or 3 years. They still haven't released information on the Kennedy assassination. Like, yeah, that's why. It's 60 years ago. What are you hiding? And stuff that's come out is still blacked out. And they say for national security purposes. Well, that's like the biggest bullshit, ever. Anytime that the government doesn't want to let the people who supposedly, are the citizens, rures of the country, right? The taxpayers, the people that put the people in office that run, that, they were, the Americans. Anytime these bureaucrats don't want to do something underhanded, corrupt, and people get on to them, like catch them, and say, we want, freedom of information. We want, what did you do? Right. They say, oh, that's protected by national security. And some of the things that are requested, it's laughable that they would say it would be national security. Right. When some congressman lies about something, about, some political thing, has nothing to do with national security. It's not no other nation. It's just what they're doing is they're just protecting themselves from being prosecuted, right? It's like in the old days, the good old boys, good old boy network, right? That's what it is. It's a good old boys. Just some good old boys. And so that's where we stand today. That's it. And that's why I'm telling you that this obsession with that thing, this passing fancy, the smartphone, the apps, it just getting in the way of people's, because you don't see a lot of happy people out there. My earlier mad, insane guffaw. I mean, that was a classic. It's almost as bad as me belching on the air now, because I just can't. Tired of picking up the handkerchief and trying to hide it. You understand what I'm talking about. Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant!
You got it. Yeah, you too. Shut up. So that's reality. That's the reality of the world we live in. We can't trust the government because they lie for a living. We can't trust anything coming out of academia because they're concerned about their jobs and grant money, tenure, and things of that nature. the rationale behind it, like someone watching this who happens to work for some alphabet agency or university or some think tank or one of these big tech companies, big pharma companies, military contractors, their excuse is simple. I have a wife and kids. My daughters just got into college. We have a house and costs. I can't afford to risk all of that stuff to, right? And other people, look at that and they have compassion for the person and say, yeah, what's the guy supposed to do? Tell the truth and become a homeless man? Yeah, basically. Because if enough people would do it, right, then you wouldn't become homeless. Because the real people at the top, right, who created this, network, this organized crime syndicate, right, would be locked up like the criminals that they are. But that's too late now. And that's why this Save America campaign movement is fucked up. Because you can't save America. You can't save Britain. You can't save Australia. You can't save France. You can't save Greece. You can't save Brussels. All right? You can't save Germany, Norway, Sweden, wherever. All right? Italy, France, Belgium. Western civilization has been toppled. The United States is the former United States because people were so concerned with the greed, their own greed, their lifestyles. They had no ethics, no moral fiber. And yeah, they were strong-armed and threatened. That's understandable. But nobody stood up. Nobody came to their defense. The courts didn't come to their defense. The politicians didn't come to their defense. Do you see? And so the whole system just collapsed. And so the government just fell apart completely, and the corporatocracy filled the power vacuum. And now there is no Constitution of the United States. There are no courts. They're kangaroo courts. They're either people who owe their allegiance to their political campaign donors, or they're the people who put the party or politicians that put them in power, by appointing them. And terms of service have replaced the Bill of Rights, basically. And despite the first words of the Bill of Rights, all right, it said Congress shall make no law that has to do with, taking away, restricting freedom of speech, assembly, and, making your grievances known to the government. Congress shall make no law. That is being totally ignored. Terms of service are in complete violation of that. All social media companies are in 100% total violation of the Constitution of the United States, and no one has challenged it. Oh, people have challenged it, and people come out verbally and say things. But no courts will say, well, we refuse to hear that case. Right? Or, or if if some lower court or some, local judge, kind of regional judge or something, follows through with it, the next court up shoots it down. And that, my friends, is how Western civilization fell, how the United States of America fell, which was basically holding the barbarians at the gate, okay? and how that we ended up with an organized crime syndicate ruling the world. Some 8,000, or not even 8,000 people. It could be 8,000. I don't know why that came to my head, but thousands of people. It's probably not even that high. Ruling over 8 billion people on the planet Earth. And practically everything you think you know, everything you know is wrong. The lighting in this place is so whack. I'm just not going to spend any more money on it. I don't really have it. I wasted it all on trying to bring this to you. And you never bought my book codex. You never even bought a frickin' mug. You didn't buy a shirt, a CD, a no weather radio that's rechargeable. Nothing. I don't make a dime on this thing. Cost me money. So, screw that. So I was thinking about it this morning when I got up. I wanted to sleep later, 7:25 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I was up at like 4 something. Because a cat was like coughing up a fur ball or something. I don't know. So I turned on the light by my bedstand, which I normally don't turn on. And I don't know. I was stared at my bookshelf in my bedroom. And I realized I had this collection of these books like Western Civilization, The Powers That Be, all these, Forbidden Archaeology, the Jacques Vallée's books, a classic book, thick, voluminous book called The Greatest Story Never Told, which is like a history on it. Very interesting researched history. It was a doctoral thesis by this woman. I can't think of her name offhand, but I believe the book's out of print now. Let's see if it is. If she's real interesting looking character too, this woman. Greatest Story Never Told. Let's see if that's still out there. No. Let's see. No, they got some Ron Watson. No. This woman's book is like law. It's probably been erased from history. There's like some weird Nazi thing or something. And this is a book about this woman like describes the ancient world and everything. It's insane. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I think it's time that we all do this, but I'm going to do it. I think it's time that we get back to reading and maybe acquiring books before they're gone forever. Because just like I just looked up now, see, there's no copyright. A title, you can't copyright a title. So I could come out with a book or a movie that's called, I don't know. It's like some movie, new movie or old movie. It's a Wonderful Life. I could come out with this a title of a movie called It's a Wonderful Life, and as long as it's not the Jimmy Stewart, story, like It's a Wonderful Life, and it's just some story about, some farm couple meets, falls in love, raises sheep, and whatever, and has this wonderful life out in the pastures, and on some mountainside in a log cabin, and it's called It's a Wonderful Life. You can't be sued for that. Titles are free, are protected. And so it's the same with like books, so that's why sometimes you look and you'll see the same title of a book and it's different. So in this case of this one, like I say, I luckily bought this book 25 years ago, and it looks like they already erased it. Because I remember looking maybe 15 years ago on Amazon or something, and I noticed that it was out of print. It like showed it, but it said out of print. And then, of course, I'm sure it just was a matter of time before they took it off, since it was out of print. And it was her doctoral thesis, I believe. And this thing is like thick. I was going to bring it down. Maybe tomorrow I will. I haven't even finished reading it. One time when I was making a move, I don't know if it was like after a relationship thing or something weird like that. And I moved in with a friend temporarily, had an extra bedroom. And I basically just spent and I didn't get, it was like he was a friend, but we didn't actually like socialize. We were in two different, our lifestyles were different, but, we were friends, old friends, but, whatever. So anyway, so I was grateful that, he had an extra room and said, yeah, and I paid my share. And I stayed there for a couple of months till I figured out what I was going to do, type of thing. And I was reading, and I had with me, I basically traveled fairly light. It was like clothes and some basic clothes. I think I had my computer with me. But it was, this was a long time ago, so it was a simple computer. It wasn't necessarily that one, but one step up from that, maybe not even. I don't even remember. But I had a couple of books, and one of them was this book. And I think I only got halfway through it. Every night I used to read, because it was very small print and a very giant book. And every night I would just read, I don't know, so many pages till I'd get tired, and then I'd go to sleep. It was like my nightly ritual. Because as opposed to watching whatever this guy was into, some weird sporting event on TV or something downstairs, I was like, I just go retreat to my room and read. But yeah, I never finished it because eventually I moved on and to another project, a job or something else like that, another city, and But I've been looking forward. I remember how amazing that book was. And I think I want to reread from beginning and then move forward to the parts I didn't finish. And I think I want to go through like the Funkin' Wagnalls. I might want to reread the Jacques Vallée books. There's another guy, I think his name's Crane Brinton, and he has a book called Ideas and Men, which really shaped a lot of my thought and woke me up to the idea of philosophy. Particularly, Western philosophy. Though he talks about some of the roots of Eastern philosophy and, in the formation of Western philosophy. Then I have a couple volumes of like the history of the world in 2 volumes. And they're a collection of essays and stories by very well-known people. I believe there's one of those essays I read, there was an essay by Darwin questioning his own theory. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then I have books like The Powers That Be, and like I said, it's a quality library of accumulate books. It's not like I have, I always dreamed of having, when I was a kid, I drew pictures. I used to when I was in high school, I took mechanical drawing, and when I was in college, I minored in architecture. And I used to always like to draw. Like, I remember drawing my dream house that I wanted to build myself out somewhere in the country. And it was one of those classic things that it was like almost like a roundhouse that was just like really kind of one big room, more or less. And the upper tier was like a balcony, and it was a library that went, bookshelves that went completely around with a walkway, and then a spiral staircase that came down to an area, with like a fireplace and a sitting room. And I probably would have had some kind of something offset, which would have been a bedroom and a bathroom. And probably being young at the time, wasn't even thinking in terms of a kitchen, the necessity of a kitchen. Now, it's funny how you are, now I cook, I'm practically a gourmet cook, I'm a good cook because I've had to cook for myself for so many years. And you just learn how to do stuff and learn how to cook fast too. I'm like a fast cook. People always comment on that. Like, it's ready already? It's like, yeah, I can make a 10-minute meal. It's like, I'm just used to doing it. And it's like, and that's even with like 30 different ingredients. I've got my spices right above my cutting board. My two primary cupboards where other ingredients are right there. I have metal cabinets, so I have like two major knives I use. One would be to cut bread, which I don't eat a lot of bread. And another one would be a chopping knife. And I have magnets. And so they're just they're on magnets right there. Just grab them off the magnet. And in the refrigerator, I always keep onions, red bell peppers, greens and things like that. And I have a garden out back where I grow my own herbs and vegetables. So in effect, cooking and that kind of thing is just something natural. So I don't have that round house that I designed as a kid that had this great library of thousands of books. But I have about, I don't know, 100 some books. I don't know, a couple hundred books, maybe, not even. But they're all like great books. So it would be nice to have the complete references of thousands of books in a library like that, to have spent a life reading and discovering things. But I didn't. But at this point, I'm thinking I want to get back into even reading the 100 or 200 books that I have, and maybe acquiring a few more. Because siren outside. Because despite all the access you have on the internet, it's not the way it was. There was this there was a Google project back where they were scanning in all of these books and stuff. I forget the name of the project. And there was, and then of course all the copyright people like swept in, the corporatocracy type people swept in. It said, no, you can't do that. You know, now you can still find some, you know, a lot of books on the internet to read free. And, you know, there is, like I say, Wikipedia, if you just are looking for something in general that has no connection whatsoever to the corporatocracy or some political or cult of personality, you know, individual, you know, it's a fairly quick way to find out some matter of factual thing, like a specific date or something. That's all I use the internet for. You see me do that all the time. Want to know, okay, when did such and such begin, or when did such and such? Okay, well, the internet's great for that. But what it's not great for doing is several things. One is, let me get rid of this thing. One, unlike the Funk and Wagnalls and the older books, it's not going to show you, you know, the continent of Africa in 1969. You know, you don't have comparisons of things. You don't have like, it's like there used to be, you know, the CIA used to publish the CIA fact thing. I think they probably still do, but I'm sure they changed it a lot from what it was 25, 30 years ago. Where there were, you know, their people had compiled all of these, you know, profiles on various countries and stuff. And that was on the internet there for a while. I don't know if it's still up there or not. Let's see if it is. New window. CIA fact book. Let's see if it's still there. The World Fact Book, CIA. Let's see here. CIA.gov, the World Fact Book. Countries. Yeah, it's still there. So you click on Antarctica. It's actually got an interesting interface. Somebody put some time into this. View 51 photos, country flag, locator. Of course, there is no flag for Antarctica. Location, geographic coordinates, total area, maritime claims, climate, terrain, natural resources, people and society, environment, you know. Yeah, so if you ever want to you know, take use of the internet that's better than Wikipedia for certain things, just type in CIA fact book. And you'll see, you know, that's where your taxpayer monies went to building that thing up. So the internet's good for some stuff like that. But, you know, there's so much knowledge and information that's just being lost. It's not being scanned in. And that was that project, Libris, I think it was called. Let's see. New window. Libris project. Let's just look at Libris and see. Libris books. Let's see. Let's try Google. Libris books, Google, website, sources for free ebooks. Project Gutenberg, over 60,000 free ebooks. I think the Libris thing, Library Genesis, library, file sharing, scholarly articles, Project Gutenberg. Let's see what that is. That's one that has like 60,000 free ebooks on it. And so you can look up, but a lot of these books are weird, like Jean Craig grows up, The Maid of Orleans, stain removal from fabrics methods, Sunset's cabin book, And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, geez, I didn't realize I still had some soda left in here. As I finish it up. But I think I'm going to spend some more time reading. I mean, I don't mean to just bore you to death with this. It seems like I've gotten slow into this. Today's garbage day, by the way. But the idea is that, I've said all I could say about the corporatocracy and the organized crime syndicate. You either accept, the idea that the U.S. is no longer exists as a country, that's a for-profit corporation, corporatocracy, that Western civilization's fallen, and that the Davos Setter is an organized crime syndicate. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's in your face. It's out there, and that's that. You accept the fact that you've got basically half or more than half of the population that is in either functionally illiterate or dumbed down, propagandized, indoctrinated, or conditioned in such a way that they're just obsessed with, the Black Mirror. And I think it's a passing fancy. It's only been around for 10 years, basically. All the apps, the whole ball of wax. I mean, in mainstream. It's only been mainstream for about 10 years. Okay. There have been other things that have been mainstream for 10 years. And people thought, rock and roll is here to stay. It will never die. Yeah, right. And now we've had rap for 25 years or something. Country music's turned into like country dance rap, right? Nah. Society's stagnating. It's, Devo had it right in the 80s. It's de-evolved. And everyone's distracted from reality. It's a backwards looking civilization. People are more concerned about social issues than they are about life issues. You say, what's the difference between a social issue and a life issue? Well, I mean, like social causes, right? Meaningless things, me culture type of things, right? He called me a name, or such and such. There's been an increase in people going after saying some kind of group, against the. It's like it's always been that way. You just have the media out there looking with like electric eyes, right? To find an example of something and then blow it out of proportion. And it's like with, I'm getting towards the end of that Criminal Minds binge watching thing. I think they only had 10 series and I'm just about at the end of the 9th, or 10 episodes or 10 seasons. Sorry. And I'm at the end of the 9th season. And they go after these serial killers and stuff like that. And, what always comes up in there, one of the first questions they have in many shows is this a copycat? Right. Because of what the media had put out. And that's where I say, and that's a show about behavior, they get into the behavior of people and stuff like that. And I was always into that. I was a demographic profiler. I was into human behavior stuff. And so when you see the media 24/7, and I mean media, I mean everything. Social media, TV media, radio, any media, right? The whole thing. That are all like pushing the same bullshit, right? The same line, right? Well, what happens is it gets in the mind. Human beings, there's a lot of sickos out there. And it's not just the narcissistic sociopaths or the psychopaths, right? I mean, most of those are part of the the organized crime syndicate that runs the world and the corporatocracy. No, it's just functionally illiterate people, that act out, or just looking for something to be a part of something or are upset with their lives. That's what I was trying to say in my description. That the obsession with smartphones and apps is nothing more than a passing fancy that's drawn the public's attention away from truly living happy, fulfilled lives. And so you look around in the former United States and you see all these angry people that are unhappy. And then they throw them and lock them down and get them scared shitless and wear this and take this. And even if you take that, you're still this. And this is going to last forever. And the next one's going to be 10 times worse. And right? Excuse me. So people get, get triggered, as they say. And that's what happens. And then the media swoops down on it. Some lunatic. These are words that people don't like to hear. But, if the functionally illiterate, right, society, the uneducated, people that have no encyclopedic knowledge of the world, okay, of life. They don't know anything. They don't even have an encyclopedic knowledge of the last thing in this book, which was America. So they don't know anything. All they know is what comes out of the black mirror, right? The various black mirrors, right? When your HD TV's off, it's a black mirror, right? When your computer monitor's off, what is it? It's a black mirror. And when your smartphone is off, it's a black mirror. Like I said, get into glamour, witchcraft, deception thing, sleight of hand, misdirection, propaganda, indoctrination, conditioning, whole, all crazy stuff they do just to mess with people's minds. And the media, they just want to sell cars, get political ads, sell pharmaceuticals, and then get the ads from the lawyers, that are, suing the pharmaceutical companies because the FDA lied or didn't give it, rushed it through or didn't, or listened or took the pharmaceutical company's data and just rubber stamped it. Didn't independently test it the way they should have. There's no other explanation for that. You can tell me all you could bullshit, all you want. The fact of the matter is there are simply too many commercials on TV right now about so many drugs that the FDA approved that have killed, maimed, or had such horrible side effects that literally billions of dollars are being paid out in settlement fees. It's your money. So the functioning illiterate don't understand that. They don't know history. I mean, they'll go to Wikipedia, but Wikipedia is messed with constantly. Constantly. If there's ever an issue if you ever watch somebody who's gotten caught doing something, right? Somebody who's part of the corporatocracy, right? Or one of the big wigs, if you instantly go to Wikipedia and get a screen capture and then go back the next day or 2 days later, you'll see how they changed and altered it to try to cover that. That's why I don't donate to Wikipedia. And that's why Wikipedia is useless. It's revisionist history. The only thing it's good for is maybe if you want to know, something when the War of 1812 was. Well, let me tell you, it was 1812. As opposed to things like this, right? To get in depth. So people don't have encyclopedic knowledge of, of their country, of the world, of life, of living. They don't know happiness outside of a technological world. They don't know that there is such a thing as happiness outside of technology or money, or massive amounts of money. It's like when I say I'm living below the poverty line, okay? And I have everything I need. I mean, really, like I say, I got a bum leg from tripping last week. So quite frankly, I really wish I could go for a walk today for two reasons. One, I'd like to get some exercise. And two, I'd like to get a few things I need for the household, all of which I can't afford, even living under the poverty line. But, so something stupid like that, yeah. Those are the only things I would be concerned with. But people don't understand that. They want this, they want that, they want, they want what those people have in the movies and those rappers have, and they want that car that for some reason, generation after generation, they've been brainwashed that it's like some beautiful thing, right? I showed you that Ford Model T for $590. I remember when VWs were selling. I remember seeing an ad in I used to read music magazines when I was in grade school. They used to have these magazines, Hit Parade and stuff like that or whatever, because I was in a band, I was playing guitar and stuff. And I remember seeing a full page ad in there. The back cover ad was a Volkswagen, and it was like $900 some dollars or $999. I thought, wow, I could get a car for $999. and I had my job. I was making $1.65 an hour, stocking shelves and working the register sometimes at Rite Aid pharmacy. And I got another one of these things. This is the third time I got this. Changes to YouTube's terms of service. So there's something going on. You're receiving this email, blah, blah, blah. Summary of the changes. Facial recognition restrictions. The terms of service already state that you cannot collect any information that might identify a person without their permission. Well, this has always included facial recognition information. New terms make that explicitly clear. So, what does that mean? Does that mean like when I put the camera on and toured through some of the title cards and showed these people and like said, look at that poser. So is this targeting me? Then this one, YouTube's right to monetize. YouTube's right. They use the word right to monetize. YouTube has the right to monetize all content on the platform, and ads may appear on videos from channels not in the YouTube partner program. Then there's something about royalties and withholding, which I don't give a shit about. So in other words, starting June 1st, these are all take effect June 1st. So June 1st, they'll either, take off some of my videos because I may have, maybe with my camera or something, showed you something, right? I don't know what that facial recognition thing is. That's kind of weird, right? That's like fishy. But the other one's definitely targeted at me. And that means it's bad enough these videos are long, right? But who wants to see do you ever you get YouTube Premium, and I'm involved in the family plan on this YouTube on Premium through a friend, a brother. And so I don't see commercials, but the content providers do still get a portion of that overall fund, I guess, that comes out of that premium fee thing. And quite frankly, I probably wouldn't even watch YouTube. Oh, my other leg is getting like a Charlie horse from sitting here so long. I managed to straighten it out before it got. But do you ever see a long video, how many commercial breaks there are? A lot. You probably know what I'm talking about. Well, no one's going to watch if my videos run 2 hours, nobody's going to want to watch them for 3 hours if they want to take a break every 10 minutes and throw in some ad. And who the hell would want to advertise on something like this? Right?
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm thinking that this whole YouTube thing's a piece of shit and that they're fucking idiots and that probably not even my leg. Probably not even do it anymore.
I think all three of you popped your stoppers.
That's right. So I said before, yeah, they're turning YouTube into a just another cable channel with a bunch of poser, YouTube millionaires, their own programming, and they just don't want guys like me on here. That's why they throttle me. And, I've tried putting this thing in different categories and just messing with all kinds of different things, different styles, different type of title cards. Remember, I'm a creative director from an advertising agency. I've been involved in the entertainment industry, publishing industries, right? I know all this. I know all this shit. I know what makes people tick and what sets something off and what might get somebody to just, put the mouse on and select. And I've used some of the most, successful time proven things to do that. And there's like 2 viewers. Why would that be? Right. I've seen videos of mine that have gotten 0 views. Because I've watched it and I've been the one, and I know that it'll say 1 view and I was that one. You should figure that out. I even do garden videos, like garden update videos. Have nothing to do with any of this kind of stuff I'm talking about. Literally just a garden tour talking about growing stuff. They're short too, like 8 minutes, 10 minutes. Other people do those, they get 37,000 views, right? It's a big community. Gardening is big. And I get like no views, 1 view. Like Instagram, if you put hashtag garden in Instagram, that's like, it's a ridiculously high millions of if anybody uses Instagram, you see when you put a hashtag, it shows you how big it is, right? And I'll put hashtag garden on a picture of like lettuce I'm growing in my backyard, cool picture of something, peppers, right? Something like that. And I have hardly any followers or whatever they call them in Instagram. Why is that? Right? Yeah, why is that? It's really weird. I can never figure that one out. So that's the thing. And I don't know. I just and I'm not in the videos. It's not like I say, well, people don't want to see it. No, it's just me showing like some cool pictures of like stuff I've grown. Even given advice in a couple of videos how to, collect water, rainwater, built a mini greenhouse for $50. Of course, now with the price of lumber, it probably cost $300. Stuff like that. Showed an apple tree. Yes, in yesterday's video, I did one. An apple tree I've grown. It's like 7 feet tall, starting to, fill out. That I grew a couple of years ago from a seed from an apple that I ate. I bought an apple, ate it, saved the seeds, planted them in my back porch closet under a grow light. Thing came up into a seedling. I go, holy shit. Put it in the ground, and the weather was right. Thing's 7 foot tall now and filling out. I may or may not get apples this year, but definitely get them next year. Imagine that. So there's no explanation why one of the most popular hashtags, and I would be like, doesn't make sense. I don't know how many people are on, hundreds of millions of people are on YouTube at any given moment, but, like under the live thing, just by the law of probability and statistics, you would expect that there'd be like several hundred people just checking the thing out, even just coming on and off, like, I don't know, that guy's weird, but you know what I mean? But I have a thing here and then that doesn't happen. So they got to throttle me or hide me somehow in certain areas or whatever. I don't know what they're doing, how they're doing it. Half the time chat doesn't work, so I don't even put it on anymore. They had that thing blocked out for me for some reason. So I just said, screw it. You know, I've got one viewer there. It's either an algorithm or who knows. Be some guy from Ireland was watching for a while, maybe him. Some guy from Norway watched for a while. So who knows? Maybe they got me blocked in my own country in the US, because it seems like it's like, you know, if I do get a viewer, it's somebody from, you know, over the pond. It's really weird. But I don't really care so much about that. Like I say, I think I'm moving back into reading, you know, and I may share some of that stuff. I may do these things less, you know, and once, you know, as I uncover some of these things, get back into the books, maybe I'll share some of that knowledge, because that's the big thing right now. I think I've taken this as far as I could possibly take it with the corporatocracy and the organized crime syndicate. And it's like beating, you know, a dead horse, which is a horrible analogy, but you know what I mean. And yeah, it's useless. You know, you can't reason with unreasonable people, and you can't expect to get a wider audience when you're being throttled or, you know, blocked or whatever. And when they're messing with you, or if they're going to try adding commercials to your broadcast, right? So, yeah, I think when I have something to say, I'll say it. And when I don't, I won't. And people just need to get their acts together, you know? So unless there's some outpouring, you know, of people buying my "you don't know what you don't know" shirts, or "everything you know is wrong," or "game over," that hat back there, if you can see, glimpse that, or "great solar stuff," or people, you know, see, it's funny, you know, all the stuff I do is all kind of selfless projects. You know, it's like, you know, there are things that benefit people. And even these conversations, I'm just trying to share ideas with you. And sometimes I'm just goofy and it's insane. But other times, you know, I've had some shows that have been like pretty much 2 hours of very serious stuff. But it's all, like I said, I don't profit on it. I'm just trying to like wake people up to some ideas that, you know, what's going on and how it works, because I've been involved in the behind the scenes, you know, just, and it's only a coincidental thing. Like I've said that once before. It's like, it's just the way things turned out. I just happened to be a guy who ended up working in Capitol Hill, worked in New York, worked in LA, right? So it was just a coincidence, you know, a confluence of events, that I became a general manager of a radio station, a creative director of an advertising agency, a publisher, right? Involved in some political things, the entertainment industry, the film industry, and stuff like that. It's just the way my life went. And so it just gave me a perspective on the way things work. I've written 9 books about it. I am going to finish another book. That's another reason why. I was half tempted to try to do a thing like kind of the way I had that camera over here before. Like I really wish they had the split screen, because what I was going to do is I was going to do a thing where I had the screen split, but I can't do it. And I'm not paying $600 to buy this software that may or may not work on my computer that allows you to do that. I sent YouTube Studio a notice saying, hey, why don't you add a picture-in-picture thing where you can split the screen? But they're not going to listen to me. But I had this idea it would be really cool to be able to sit here and write my book, my Flow of Consciousness book, live, because, usually when I'm writing a book, I spend a couple hours a day on it. And so wouldn't it be interesting concept? Because I don't think anyone's ever done this before. Pretty sure. I've probably given this idea out. Wouldn't it be neat if my ugly mug was over here? This screen is split or whatever. I think actually it is already flipped because I'm seeing this backwards. That's right. So my mug is where it is, but in this part of the screen would be a page, and I would be writing my book. Okay. Typing it and talking about it, and so while I would be writing my book live on the internet, on YouTube. And so however long it took to write, and you'd actually see the entire writing process, right? From page 1 to completion, corrections, researching something, right? Deleting this. Nah, that doesn't make sense. I think I'll change that. How about this? Wouldn't that be a cool thing? But technology that these, YouTube 6-figure, 7-figure Starbucks coffee drinkers have, they don't know how to do that. And it's really easy to do. They really easy. It's so easy. See, because the reason I know they can do it, like literally today and tomorrow, there should be an upgrade, is because they have this thing, if you've ever streamed, where you can edit the text in your description. And it's not like you can just edit your text and description, but you can edit your title card. And so when you first go to broadcast live, what comes up is your camera automatically takes a picture of you. All right. And that's your title card. Now, the reason my title cards aren't just a picture of me going is because you have the ability to hit change or upload, whatever. And then it opens up a window and you select a file. You say. So they could easily have a button on the side that says PIP, which stands for picture in picture. And I'm not talking about doing anything fancy with small things or moving it around, just split screen. Maybe that's what they just call it, split screen. SC, split screen. And you hit it and it split screens. And it pulls up a thing, and whatever you wanted on that other screen then can be broadcast the same way. Now, the technology, it's totally possible because you could buy like third-party software that does this kind of crap. But they won't do it because they don't know how. Come here, kid. Yeah, come here, kitty. The show's over. Might as well you come up here. Let's show people the kitty. Look at the little baby kitty. You want a purr? Show them your face, your eyes. Listen to him purring. You happy, bird? There you go. Be free. All right. So with that,
Good morning.
Have a good morning. I'm going to end this show. I don't know if I'll see you tomorrow or not. Think about it. In the meantime, a couple hundred videos to watch if you really want to. Cheers. Peace.